And at 10, Phantom Glamrock Freddy. While Phantom Glamrock Freddy isn't the most terrifying animatronic, obviously, this is only number 10, but it is unsettling to see an animatronic that's supposed to be helping us in the next game at least get turned into a phantom, even before the game has come out. It's crazy. While not horrific, it's still putting me on edge and making me wish I didn't think of these lists. But this is definitely the least scary out of the group. The end gets absolutely bonkers. But Phantom Glamrock Freddy is also actually fairly visually appealing. This is still pretty creepy kind of way, but it's nice to look at creepy. And at 9, Nightmare Funtime Freddy. Here we go, already coming in with the heavy hitters. Nightmare animatronics are usually scary, with their teeth sharper than needles and a silhouette that would make you cower in fear. The Nightmare animatronics were supposed to be scary, especially since they had to compensate for Springtrap. But Nightmare Funtime Freddy is messed up. The character wasn't that scary originally, unless it was moving its face in an ungodly way. But add the purpose of the animatronic on top of that and you can get pretty shaken. But now add the Nightmare theme and you are really in for some sweet, sweet night terrors. I swear the FNAF animatronics take turns being my sleep paralysis demons. And now they just added another one to the roster. Actually, all of these are pretty nightmare inducing, so be prepared folks. It's Nightmare Funtime Freddy, Bachelor number 2. And at 8, Nightmare Withered Freddy. Let's be honest, Withered Freddy isn't really that withered. The Nightmare version was more withered than this one was, for God's sake. But combining the two is an entirely different story. Nightmare Freddy is my favorite of the Nightmare animatronics, but adding the more tattered and rugged exterior to the Withered Freddy animatronic was the right way to go. This is what I want Nightmare Freddy to look like. This is what Withered Freddy should have looked like. Withered Bonnie and Chica are scary, but Withered Freddy was always lacking, until now. This jump scare would be something to marvel at. Maybe if it was, I would have gotten in that Central Dark video. Still salty about that. I'm the FNAF king of the office, but they didn't invite me. That was a letdown. At least you can watch me react to them whenever I play FNAF VR, which I've done a few times on the channel, but I don't want to do it. It's not fun. And at 7, Nightmare Dreadbear. Dreadbear is a recent addition to the FNAF roster, being introduced in the Curse of Dreadbear DLC for FNAF Help Wanted. It's a really good design, combining Frankenstein's monster and Freddy Fazbear, but the character overall wasn't really that scary, until someone made a Nightmare version and a load of other people hopped on the bandwagon like it was on its way to Helgen. And whether it be a combination of Dreadbear and Nightmare Freddy, or hell, even a recolored Nightmare Fredbear, these versions of Dreadbear are vastly more terrifying than normal Dreadbear. I think Dreadbear is my personal favorite version of Freddy. I love that DLC, honestly. It's so good. And at 6, FNAF Plus Freddy. FNAF Plus is a fan recreation of the first FNAF game and is a part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, where Scott has funded a load of fan games that will all take place on another Earth in the FNAF canon, but their version of Freddy's won't be the one we know, but this new and darker version. The FNAF Plus model for Freddy, though, really sets the tone for the whole game. With a wider face and overall just wider features, FNAF Plus is certainly going to haunt my dreams at night. If you haven't watched the various tapes and trailers for this version of FNAF, I highly suggest you do so because they're pretty damn creepy. Plus, Chica and Bonnie look just as terrifying. This is going to be so dark and I love it. FNAF Plus Freddy's feet are also absolute chonkers and will make anyone who has a wiki feet in their search history unsettled, that's for sure. Halfway through at number 5, Monster Toy Freddy. Monster Toy Freddy I guess seems to be a fan character from a fan game, since it's a retextured version of the Monster Rat from Five Nights at Candy's, ironically another fan game set to have a new sequel in the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. However, Monster Toy Freddy doesn't actually exist in those games as far as I know. And while this is meant to be Toy Freddy, the character and versions I found online were basically just reskins of the Monster Rat, and not adding additional features or anything aside from a microphone, top hat, and bow tie to make them Freddy. But I'm actually scared of the Monster Rat, so it works for me. Plus, there's a Monster Golden Freddy version that also pops up when you search for Monster Toy Freddy, so yeah, it's definitely a sight to see. And at 4, Golden Call. Golden Call hails from the extremely terrifying Dormitibus universe, where everything we thought we knew about FNAF gets thrown out the window and is replaced with gross gore and body horror that will make even the most seasoned of FNAF veterans shake with fear. Golden Call is a version of Freddy that is making a phone call, but the gore behind this character makes it one of the most gruesome sights in the game, aside from Garvey, the Springtrap substitute. Golden Call has flesh peeling off of them and they're covered in holes and extra bits of gore, as if someone had died inside the suit and were left there to rot for 50 years. It's horrible, it's disgusting, and I had to look at this and write this number after I had lunch, so it's not sitting well anymore. Then at 3, Havoc Freddy. Havoc Freddy, much like the Havoc puppet, is from the Dormitibus universe as well. Havoc Freddy is a distorted manifestation accident born from the Havoc puppet, who attempted to make a physical body for the spirits in purgatory from plasma. When alive, the spirit's name was Ted. He has a giant hole in the right side of his mask, revealing a large portion of his endoskeleton. His right eye hangs out the hole by a few wires, consisting mainly of a black color with a red pupil. His left eye has a blue color on it, like his real counterpart. His eyebrows look rather large, with his right one missing a small amount of itself. His top hat appears to be fine though. A long arm is connected to the left side of his head, with it wearing no suit on it, and the hand from the arm appears to be missing a finger segment, and is holding a microphone. Had to work it in. Havoc Freddy doesn't have a suit for his lower jaw, and his entire jaw is hanging rather low by a few wires, so yeah, that's a thing. And it's Ignited Freddy. Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists in the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection release as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. In this game you play as Scott Cawthon, whose creations have escaped from the game and are coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, exposing his endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth, and his left ear is also missing. Ignited Freddy wears a top hat like his original counterparts did, and both of his hands are also missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm. He has no real eyes, only black holes with white pupils, which is a staple for creepy animatronics at this point. And yeah, these last three are really something, that's for damn sure. Especially in at number 1, Sinister Freddy. Sinister Freddy, while being the thumbnail of this video, was also intended on releasing with the cancelled Sinister Turmoil fan game. Instead of the full game, however, we got Sinister Turmoil Sewers, which was a small section of what would have been the full game, featuring Sinister Mangle as the main antagonist. Sinister Freddy though is a brown animatronic bear with a lighter shade of brown on his stomach, snout, and inside of his ears. You knew that. He appears to have damage in his suit, small but sharp teeth, and no eyes. His whole suit appears to be severely withered, having large rips and tears on several pieces of his body. Sinister Freddy also sports large needle-like weapons on his wrists. It's like the hidden blade from Assassin's Creed. He also appears to have small geometrically shaped nails or claws, and a mouth with sharp but small teeth under his body that can be seen if one takes a look closely. But don't get too close. I don't like it, okay? It's absolutely terrifying and deserved to be number 1, even taking over the Dermidibus animatronics. But those are also just like an easy number 1. Like, and I like to torture myself. You all know this. That's why we've been making FNAF content for so long.
Number 10, Stylized Foxy. Stylized Foxy is scary in a different way. These designs tend to be a bit exaggerated and over the top, which is what makes them so terrifying to me. From elongated snouts to oddly organic looking eye patches that look like they're made of Foxy's skin. I mean, this whole stylized Foxy's face in general, it's a lot, and it definitely creeps me out. Just the way the flesh seems to be peeled back from his mouth and nose, I really don't like that. It definitely does not seem like your average performance-ready version of Foxy, but that's also what makes Stylized Foxy so great, that he's over the top depending on the fan-made creation of him in either the scary or polished department, and sometimes in both. Number 9, Glamrock Foxy. I cannot lie that Glamrock Foxy looks pretty tame in comparison to some of the other fan-made creations on this list, but I do feel like all of the potential Glamrock fan-made versions of both Foxy and the puppet would be the most terrifying ones to be integrated into this style, other than the already existing Monty, of course, who also looks fairly friendly but also like intimidating. Yeah, Monty creeps me out too, especially with all those sharp teeth. Some fan-made creations of Glamrock Foxy feature him with sunglasses that completely obstruct his eyes, which I also find intimidating on these animatronics. I do not like not being able to see their eyes and knowing where they're looking. I want to see where those peepers are, you know, are they looking at me? Are they looking at me? Glamrock Foxy is also generally depicted as having quite a few sharp teeth showing, which also makes him kinda scary if you were to just see him in a dimly lit area backstage. Glamrock animatronics are still animatronics, which makes them pretty scary in general. There has also been a version that gave us a prosthetic mic in place of a prosthetic hook, which is weirdly more disturbing to me than a hook. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't know, prosthetic microphone on the end of your arm thing, it's not. I don't like it. And friends, before we move on to the next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more fan-made versions of FNAF Animatronics lists, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. And be sure to go check out our FNAF playlist. I think we've done like over 200 videos or something crazy on FNAF, so yeah, go check it out. You will be entertained for so long. Number 8. First Mate Foxy. This fan-made version was so prominent when I was looking at various fan creations that I could not ignore it. It comes from the fan-made game Sinister Turmoil. First Mate Foxy is obviously inspired by the Foxy from FNAF and is an animatronic who even shares his hook placement and eye patch placement with the main animatronic, original Foxy. He is dressed in tattered clothes, appearing like a first mate. I love his little sailor's bandana around his neck too. It's not scary, it's just a fun detail. While he may be dressed to look a little more friendly, First Mate Foxy is also in very rough shape, which is what makes his appearance so menacing. Haunted Foxy. Haunted Foxy has many different fan-made versions, with people offering their takes on Phantom Foxy, but also offering much brighter ghost-like versions as well. Haunted Foxy in general is depicted by fans as being more bright and neon than you might imagine. One creation imagines Haunted Foxy to be a character with blinding yellow eyes and a ghostly white but impossibly blinding stomach. Kind of weird, connecting its top half to its lower half. This version is still in shadow or burnt and tattered like the Phantom version, but also offers a bit more of a spectral, otherworldly vibe with its bright, glowing features. Honestly, it kinda reminds me of some of the spooks we saw in Ghostbusters originally, who also seemed to ominously glow. Also, I love Ghostbusters. Let's all go watch Ghostbusters now. Let's all go. After this list. Let me finish this list first. Ignited Foxy. Ignited Foxy is a fan-made version that typically stands out due to the bright red of his eyes, which are like little flames radiating outward from his skull. Sometimes he also almost seems electrified, as though even being within his proximity could be dangerous because of how easily he could perhaps shock you. One version even seems to show Foxy with live wire feet and arms, at least that's how I would describe that. His eyes either glow red or more predominantly seem to be a bright, blinding white, and his legs and chest cavity are revealed, with his outer suit being torn away to reveal the endoskeleton underneath, which looks similar to a human skeleton in terms of layout. Like, not exactly, but I think you see what I'm talking about here. Sinister Foxy. This version of Foxy seems to be specifically characterized by his pointy, very sharp teeth. Like many of the other fan-made Sinister versions, he also sometimes has holes where his eyes would be, or alternatively has a white gear or bright light, but just in one eye, peering at you from the darkness. Sinister Foxy is made to look more menacing and intimidating, definitely not a version you could ever consider to be your friend, unlike original Foxy. This version appears to be more of a straight-laced foe. Some fan-made versions also showcase Sinister Foxy with a light at the back of his mouth or his throat, as though beckoning you to enter and be consumed. Do not let Foxy eat you. His teeth are very pointy, it would not be pleasant. Stylized Nightmare Foxy. This fan-made version of Foxy is so good, I had to share it with you. It almost looks like at first glance that this version has no face, but his snout is just actually more in tatters than what we're used to seeing on our animatronics. But it really does look like he has no face. If you just look at it really quickly, it's disturbing. Stylized Nightmare Foxy comes with an equally disturbing, oddly thin parrot. Like, this parrot looks like it has been resurrected from the dead, which would also make sense given the state of Foxy here. Foxy himself is in tatters as well, with his calves completely visible, calves and his feet. This version of Foxy appears to have both feet, no peg leg or anything like that, but still has one hook. The visible endo parts of his legs look strikingly deadly, as though you were about to take on some kind of futuristic Terminator version of the animatronic. This fan-made version of the animatronic was shared on Reddit by That Soup Dude, so thank you, That Soup Dude, for this very disturbing version wherever you are. Out in the world. Number 3, Scrap Foxy. Who even needs a peg leg when you are Scrap Foxy? This version of the animatronic is typically depicted as hopping around on one foot, with his arm potentially also missing. He is the definition of scrappy. Some fan-made scrap versions of the character also show him missing his eyes. Generally, he is in a very severe state of degradation, with whole chunks or limbs missing, and in many cases, his endoskeleton also peeks through. There are also Funtime Foxy versions of this character, which are perhaps, I don't know, even more terrifying to look at due to the fact that their colors still appear cheerful and bright. For some reason, when something is cheerful and bright but also like a mess, I don't like that. Number 2, Nightmare Toy Foxy. One of the worst things around, once again because of the contrast from bright to horrific, is Nightmare Toy Foxy. This version of the character is sometimes shown with a slightly larger or more prominent hook and in very bad shape, like most of the Nightmare animatronics. Even still, for some reason, it looks to me like Nightmare Toy Foxy, and most fan-made renderings of it, is always slightly smiling, which makes them even more disturbing to gaze upon. Like many of the other Nightmare animatronics, they have rows and rows of teeth and either have a very stripped down version of a hand puppet on their arm or a larger hook in its place. Like with the prosthetic microphone that Glamrock Foxy is shown wielding, I personally think the tattered hand puppet prosthetic is even more frightening. You can't even tell, I mean, I guess it's got little nubs for its ears. Is this supposed to be like a bonbon? I don't know. Number 1, Twisted Foxy. Twisted Foxy is very disturbing to look at and is covered in holes that appear to emit, I don't know, toxic spores? He looks like something out of an H.P. Lovecraft story, some eldritch god monster type monstrosity. Twisted Foxy has multiple mouths with rows of sharp teeth, bright yellow eyes frozen in an angered grimace, and like I said, then there are all the holes, which are apparently not just rips, but are actually functional. The stub that his hook is attached to also looks all the more terrifying because of how large it is in contrast to the slim hook that's attached to the end of it, connected only by skin which seems to be wound around its base as though it were like a string. It makes me uncomfortable just talking about it.
And 10 Spring Bonnie. Spring Bonnie, while being canon in the main series, has only been showed in 8-bit cutscenes. It very well could have just been an animatronic too. But looking up Spring Bonnie on Google Images actually is pretty creepy for something that's only been in 8-bit and supposed to not be scary, since it's just an animatronic with an exoskeleton, or exosuit. For some reason, I find this more unsettling than the normal Springtrap. Maybe because I've been looking at normal Springtrap for so long that I've just gotten used to it? I don't know. The look of the completed and pristine Springtrap just puts me on edge for some reason. Maybe it's Maybelline, maybe it's because I think I'll be the next victim. Either way, Spring Bonnie is scary. I was gonna make a joke like Spring Bonnie is spring scary, but it didn't work. I don't know why I thought of it. And a 9 Draw Kill. This Springtrap was drawn in the style of Draw Kill. At least that's what the image said. I was unable to find the original author since the 3 versions of this that showed up were small and Pinterest links that didn't give any credit, so that's unfortunate. But this thing sets me on edge. And not only this, but searching Draw Kill Springtrap on Google will get you a load of monstrosities that will haunt your nightmares for the next few weeks. I'm not quite sure what it is about this animatronic that makes it so creepy. I just know that it's creeping the hell out of me. Why does this misfortune continue? And at 8, Toy Springtrap. Toy Springtrap is what it sounds like. Springtrap in the form of Toy Bonnie instead of Golden Bonnie. Well, actually, Golden Toy Bonnie. This is creepy as hell. Can you imagine being stuck inside a toy animatronic? Like, obviously I'd like to be stuck inside Toy Chica, but not for so long that the parts of plastic start coming apart and deteriorating and my flesh starts melting and rotting away. Yeah, I don't like the thought of that, and yet here we are with Toy Springtrap and it hurts my feelings. Like on a deep level. Like, at least they didn't do this to Chica, otherwise I think I would be crying on camera, and the editors would leave it in because they like to watch me suffer, just like the rest of you do. And at 7, Scorched Springtrap. Scorched Springtrap is different than its canon counterpart from FNAF AR. Scorched Springtrap in essence looks like a phantom version of Springtrap, like as if it was a hallucination in FNAF 3. Basically a burnt version of Springtrap after the fire at Fazbear frights. Speaking of which, it looks like they just showed up across the street because there's fire trucks over there. But I'm sure you're seeing it, so you know what I mean. Sure, normal Springtrap is pretty spooky, but this guy just takes it one step further and really messes with your head. It's ironic given how you can actually see Springtrap on multiple cameras in FNAF 3 as another hallucination. So Scorched Springtrap looking like a phantom makes sense. And it's 6, Nightmare Springtrap. We all love the Nightmare animatronics. They're some of the scariest things in the games that we've seen. But Springtrap was missing from the bunch, obviously, since this would have been before Springtrap was a thing, at least in the timeline-wise. And William caused the hallucinations anyway. But the fan versions of Nightmare Springtrap are some horrific shit. With the famous stomach mouth and razor-sharp munchers, this guy will eat your arm and left testicle for breakfast and then come back for seconds, and then will finish you off for lunch, then regurgitate you again come dinner. But you're also forced to deal with this cycle every day, and it's still you every day. You just somehow come back to life so he can eat you again. I don't know where this analogy came from, like, I'm not okay. FNAF has actually broken me. Halfway through into number 5, Final Nights. 2 words. Kill me. I don't want to deal with this thing, so if I'm ever in a situation where I come into contact with this thing, be it virtual or in the real world somehow, I'm going to tell it to kill me. Because no. Just no. This thing is horrifying, and there's only one real image of it. The suit over the exoskeleton is even more torn and tattered, and the glowing dots for eyes make it not any better. My pants are now the color of this animatronic because of it. How does William even have glowing dots for eyes? Like, shouldn't he just have normal eyes? Because he's still human. I'm so confused. Look, this thing could find me in broad daylight with a million people around it and be frozen still, and I still wouldn't mess with it. This thing looks crazy. Why is Final Nights so goddamn terrifying? It scares me with the Reaper puppet, and it scares me with its version of Springtrap. I don't know if it's just an Easter egg or an actual antagonist, but I don't plan on sticking around to find out. And it forced Springtrap endo. What would Springtrap look like without an exosuit? Without the stuff that actually makes him look like Springtrap. A monster comprised of human flesh and gore and some metal thrown in. Yeah, Springtrap Endo is the endoskeleton of Springtrap with William Afton still connected. Not only does that sound painful as hell, it looks like it. But this thing is so bloody, honestly, a lot of it may be black and white, or something like that. We may not be allowed to show it on YouTube. Well, we probably could show it, but we may get in trouble for doing so. So, watch at your own risk. There, YouTube, I said it. Are we okay? Are we good? Getting close to the end in number 3, Daylight Springtrap. Daylight Springtrap is a version of Springtrap fan-made as a proposition for Dead by Daylight, a popular multiplayer survival horror where you play as either one of the survivors or the killer. The killer has options between the look and class of the killer, and this creation was a proposition for the game to add a Springtrap character, which would require a load of licensing fees, but we'll pretend like it would be possible. This thing would scare the living hell out of me in either game. It's just horrific. Just the horrific nature of these creations makes me sick to my stomach. There are multiple versions of this animatronic, and they all just make me feel like I'm going to suffer. Some may say just to add the normal Springtrap animatronic, but I'm not sure. What do you think? Would you like to see a Springtrap killer in Dead by Daylight? And if you did, would you want a unique design or the original Springtrap that we all know and love? Be sure you let me know in the comments. And ultimately, in at number 2, Ignited Springtrap. Ignited Springtrap comes to us from the wonderfully horrific and terrifying world of the joy of creation. Ignited Springtrap is what I feel like Springtrap would have been. With no jaw and his horrifying demeanor overall, this guy will make you bricks. I'm not even sorry about the swearing because this one was necessary. Normal Springtrap is bad enough, but crank it up to an 11 and then throw it into the real world and then all of a sudden you get this thing. And if you're unaware, the premise of Joy of Creation is that you play as Scott Cawthon and the animatronics are coming after you in our world. Hence the name Joy of Creation. But we will also be getting a new and improved version of this character thanks to the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. Thanks, Scott! Just makes everything more terrifying. Hooray! Finally, in at number 1, Garvey. Garvey is the penultimate antagonist in Dormitibus. As a human, he was a man who murdered the missing children. He later went on to get trapped in Spring Bonnie, becoming Springtrap, and then was burned to a permanent death in the Fazbear Frights fire. Garvey is a extremely grotesque version of Springtrap. The suit on his limbs and body are heavily tattered and shredded, and his organic remains are far more visible than they are for the normal Springtrap. His lower jaw is deformed and broken, which disappears on at least one occasion, showing Garvey's corpse, mouth, and jaw. Cause you know, why the hell not? And Garvey now has an unnatural animalistic stance, walking in all 4 limbs like a spider. His limbs also appear to be snapped in multiple places, alluding to the limbs being bent in unnatural ways, and the fact that his left hand serves as a foot and his left foot serves as a hand? What? He is also much bigger than Springtrap, or any other threat in the game. They were also named before the William Afton name reveal, I'm pretty sure, so this is just a random messed up dude, in at least Dormitibus lore. Yeah, no thank you, not anymore, no. Go away. And at 10, Funtime Bonnie. The Funtime animatronics were introduced in Sister Location, the 5th game in the series. However, Bonnie was actively missing from that lineup, aside from a couple small hand puppet versions that are unsettling on their own. This left a rabbit-shaped hole in our hearts, so Funtime Bonnie was created. Well, was created by fans. We don't think that there is a Funtime Bonnie that actually exists in the lore, like how the Chica version was rented out. You know what I'm talking about. If you've watched other lists about fan versions, you'll know that the Funtimes creep me out. The ability for them to move their faces is wrong, and it's really a selling point behind why they're scary. And at 9, Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Imagine Withered Bonnie but on an illicit substance and you have Nightmare Withered Bonnie. Withered Bonnie is already scary enough with the beating red eyes and the rundown visuals. Even if it's just Nightmare Bonnie with Withered Bonnie's face, it's already even more terrifying. And we all know how Scott feels about normal Bonnie. Add in the Nightmare version and he's already crapping himself, and then add in the Withered version, and then this is the reason he retired. There, I said it. Not because of any controversy or him being tired and wanting to make other games, but because of Nightmare Withered Bonnie. It's an ungodly creation that must be stopped. But actually, it's really cool. Good job to people who made versions of Nightmare Withered Bonnie. I'm not dissing you, it's fine. They're good. And at 8, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie. Yet another set of animatronics without any Bonnie representation. The Security Breach Glamrock animatronics, from what we've seen in any trailer so far, don't have a Glamrock Bonnie. He only really appears as the mascot of bowling. However, fans have yet again made Glamrock versions of Bonnie, but those weren't scary. So in classic FNAF fashion, if you want something to be scarier than it is, just throw Nightmare in front of it. And then boom, you have an unholy abomination that will eat your soul and devour your balls. I don't know where that last part came from. Nevertheless, Nightmare Glamrock Bonnie looks exactly how you'd expect a Nightmare version of a Glamrock Bonnie to look, with shoulder pads. Okay? That's probably the scariest part, if I'm being honest. And at 7, Havoc Bonnie. Here we go, the good old classic Dormitibus. Known as probably the most disturbing FNAF fan game, Dormitibus takes place before FNAF 4 and 5 even came out, so before the official after name reveal as well as the Nightmare animatronics. But this is honestly worse than the Nightmare animatronics in my opinion. The thing is, Havoc Bonnie wasn't even in the original Dormitibus. It's a fan creation based on a fan creation, making it one of the most meta versions of Bonnie on this list. Although there is another that's even more meta, but we'll get to that. And the fact that the Dormitibus based version of Bonnie is only number 7 should speak volumes about what's coming up. And no, it's not at number 7 because it wasn't in the original game. The game is hella messed up. I suggest looking it up if you're over the age of 16. I mean, like, I'm gonna put that disclaimer because, like, kids should really not be looking at this kind of thing. It's messed up. Honestly, like, that's not even a joke. And at 6, FNAF Plus Bonnie. FNAF Plus is an in-development fan game funded by the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative. And as I described in the video about the Fanverse timeline, click up in the top right corner for that video, this is probably the deviation point from the main timeline, with other events beforehand remaining largely similar, if not identical. However, this version of not only Bonnie, but the other 2 animatronics as well, are just plain creepy. Bro, like if Funko Pops could actually kill you and wanted to. Not sponsored, but Funko, hit me up. The structure of the head is honestly best described as a Funko Pop vinyl figure, with a wide jaw that would slay any mother who walked in with their kids for their birthday party. But it's so creepy and off-putting. Like, they certainly nailed the creepier and darker theme that these games are going for, because these remakes set me on edge, and it hasn't even come out yet. They put me on edge like I'm Lady Gaga, but I'm on the edge of terror, not glory. Trust me, looking at these horrifying versions is not glorious in the slightest, and neither is making FNAF videos on the daily. Halfway through and at number 5, Nightmare Toy Bonnie. I thought that the Nightmare versions couldn't get any worse, yet here we are. I remember someone commenting on the alternate fan versions of Chica list, saying that it was more like a fan alternate versions of Toy Chica list, but the toy animatronics are just another version of the original, so it wasn't a different list. It's the same thing, so don't pester me about this one this time around. Nightmare Toy Bonnie is a monstrosity that needs to be banished to the depths of hell and then sent by Satan to the empty because he doesn't want to deal with it. And I would understand why. Looking this up, I didn't think I would be as frightened as I was, but holy ever-loving crap, this actually kinda shocked me. The toy aesthetic just seems to make the Nightmare versions even worse. I don't know what it is. It's just like the toy animatronics as nightmares just makes the absolute scariest Nightmare versions, I swear. I don't know what it is. If you have any theories as to why this is a thing, let me know in the comments. And at 4, Ignited Bonnie. Remember when I said it would get more meta? Well, here we are, with the meta levels rising above that of Central City, because Ignited Bonnie comes from the joy of creation, a FNAF fan game where we play as Scott Compton in the real world. Yeah, you heard that right. In this game, you play as the creator of FNAF himself after he retires the series 2 years after the release of the first game. But the animatronics don't like that, and somehow break out of the game to attack Scott, his family, and Michael Afton. This game is also getting a new version as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative, and honestly, I'm excited to see what's coming, but I'm curious as to how they'll fit it into the story. Droid Creation is seen as one of the scariest FNAF fan games, so it's obvious why it would get a new funded version. I feel like Scott also just liked the idea of being a playable character, because I know I sure as hell would. It would give my ego a much needed boost, so I get it, Scott. I get it. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Draw Kill Bonnie. Draw Kill Bonnie was actually a version I was recommended on previous videos. Multiple comments suggested that I look up the Draw Kill animatronics, and honestly, I'm glad you told me, because goddamn this thing is menacing. Called Bonnie Bot by Draw Kill on DeviantArt, it's a disproportionate Bonnie robot that is actually made to look like metal, instead of being like kind of fuzzy with a metal interior. We all know how I feel about disproportionate things. They always end up making things more off-putting than normal. And the hands on this thing are just gigantic, which makes me think that it's just going to crush me and then use its arm like a hammer and just keep pounding on my head until I'm 6 feet under or just pulverized. These Draw Kill animatronics are damn terrifying, and I'm really thankful for your recommendations. So if you have any other animatronics or animatronic versions that you want me to check out for characters I haven't covered on these lists, be sure you let me know down below, because it will be really helpful when I end up making those videos, and I don't have to use the same 10 keywords over and over again, because Draw Kill is definitely in the reservoir now. We know that I just look up the same things just with different animatronics, let's be honest. Penultimately, in at number 2, Sinister Bonnie. Speaking of using the same 10 keywords over and over again, if you knew these lists, then you knew that Sinister Bonnie was bound to make an appearance. From the unfinished, unreleased, and cancelled fan game Sinister Turmoil, we have Sinister Bonnie, an animatronic best described as a repaired nightmare version. With teeth sharper than Eminem's lyrics and an overall demeanor more intimidating than Dwayne Johnson, the animatronic is some pure nightmare fuel, and it's clear to see why. Every time I see one of these Sinister animatronics, I'm glad that this game didn't release. Not because it wouldn't have been good or because the game was just looked awful. I'm sure the game would have been amazing, but because I don't have to deal with these things. I don't have to interact with them anywhere other than still images where they can't actually hurt me. And that's what really matters to me in the long run. Avoiding being scared at all costs. I don't understand why people like feeling scared. Like, I feel like it's probably like a kink thing if you ask me. Cause you know, fear evolved to protect us, and being scared is a bad thing. But nevertheless, these things are so wrong, but so right. At least so right in the scare department, and wrong for my pants, because at this point all of my pants are brown and the laundry room smells atrocious, especially because it's hot outside. Oh yeah. Finally, in at number 1, Slasher Bonnie. Yet another recommendation from the comments, Slasher Bonnie will haunt my nightmares for weeks to come. As if I wasn't scared enough about playing the guitar, Slasher Bonnie turns that into an actual fear by making that thing into a giant axe. Thanks, PlayStation Jedi on DeviantArt. Thanks for causing plenty of restless nights. This damn guitar axe thing is so damn creepy, especially because there is literal blood dripping off the damn thing. I don't know what else to say. Like, I feel like the pictures say it all. If a picture says 1,000 words, then I just need 2 pictures for my script, and then that's the video. I'm done. Like, my scripts are usually around 2,000 words long, which is significantly more than most people, at least at work, I feel. But, like, because, like, I talk fast, which I'm sure you've noticed a lot of people have complained about it, but I mean, like, I can't change the way I talk. That's also why I usually don't have time for comments, because I only have so long to film a video, and that's all filled with information. As long as you keep Slasher Bonnie away from me, I think I'll be okay. Although the Slasher animatronics will also be making more appearances if there are more than the original 4 animatronics, because we've already covered the other ones. Because goddamn, did you see the Chica version? Like, it has a bib that says "Let's kill" instead of "Let's eat." Dear God, why would you do this? And it's 10 Funtime Chica. Now, before you go off on me for talking about Funtime Chica, before FNAF 6 there was no Funtime Chica, so any form of this character was actually fan-made. Like this fan-made teaser from Hero Golem on DeviantArt. The lack of beak already makes this version unsettling, but add in the Funtime's ability to move their faces at will, and you have some genuine nightmare fuel, and probably the least scary animatronic animatronic. And by that I mean scary in like a typical sense. Not to mention the different Nightmare Funtime chicas that I saw looking up Funtime Chica fan made. It was a lot. And this is really something that I need to be careful of, because when I searched Funtime Chica fan art instead, I got an entirely different art genre than I was looking for. Like, come on Google, save that for my phone late at night when nobody's watching. And at 9, Nightmare Toy Chica. Nightmare Toy Chica is honestly what you'd expect from a nightmare version of your favorite chicken robot. All the glory of Toy Chica with the horror of a nightmare. The countless sharp teeth, stomach, mouth, torn body, even though they're toy and plastic, so it doesn't really make sense. Exposed endoskeleton, the works. And those without a beak are even worse than you'd expect. You'd expect that without the beak there would be less teeth, but no. In fact, they have the same amount. And they're ready to bite your head off. If anyone was going to have caused the bite of 87, it would be Nightmare Toy Chica. And not just because of Toy Chica's Ultimate Custom Night Deathline. Although that is a whole other can of worms for another day. And at 8, Twisted Toy Chica. Twisted Toy Chica is basically, if I had to describe it, which I do given that I chose this list and then put this on the list, would be Nightmare Toy Chica cranked up to an 11 and then squared. These things are horrific and they're all different in some way. One has boils all over with the classic nightmare aesthetic. One is covered in what looks like egg sacs. One has additional Toy Chicas and cupcakes coming out of their arms and back. And one is a combination of Toy Chica, Toy Bonnie, and Toy Freddy, and is one of the most unholy abominations that I've seen. This looks like it belongs in a Dormitibus game or alongside the creation and joy of creation. While the variety is incredible and the fact that each one is different is rare to say the least, they all end up being scary, but others are even scarier. Like in at number 7, Monster Chica. The Monster Chica animatronic, like Monster Freddy from the alternate fan versions of Freddy list, is a simple edit of the Monster Rat animatronic from the Five Nights at Candy series, which technically, if you consider the Fazbear fanverse initiative, is still actually kind of canon, but it's still fan-made and therefore belongs on this list. The edit mostly consists of making the character yellow, adding a cupcake, and then changing the snout to a beak, but this is still terrifying to say the least. And not to mention the bolts coming out of its body looking like spikes. It's horrifying. If the FNAF animatronics are my sleep paralysis demons, this one is taking the shift tonight. Like, it's freaking horrific. And there are some that look like Havoc Monster Chica, like Havoc Chica from Dormitibus combined with a monster version. And don't worry, you'll see Havoc very soon. But like, how is this a thing? Why is this my life? I give myself nightmares for a living. Thank God for Canada's free healthcare, otherwise my multiple heart attacks from seeing these things would cost me literally my heart otherwise. Like, I would have to sell my organs. And I'm not Shrimply Pibbles, I can't just have a dong be my heart. That was for you Rick and Morty fans out there. Season 5! And at 6, NSFW Chica. Yes, now it's nighttime on my phone when nobody's watching. And while we're just showing tame or normal Chica for this number, the amount of not safe for work chickens I've seen would even make Colonel Sanders shake with fear. It's scary to me how accurate Rule 34 is, if I'm being 100% honest. No matter what, if it is on the internet, there is some form of NSFW version for you to find. And that's pretty nasty, especially given that these are animatronic animals with the souls of dead kids possessing them. I think that I'm gonna side with PETA this one time and this one time only. If they made an adult video site that was Chica themed and filled it with animal cruelty videos instead, at that point I would understand, because it's basically the same thing as far as I'm concerned. And I'm not kidding, that's actually a thing they did. I mean, like, it wasn't Chica themed, but I'm sure you get the idea. The Chica not safe for work art is scary enough. Okay, look, if you're wondering why it's on this list, then you know why it's on the list. Halfway through into number 5, Scrap Toy Chica. As a proud member of the Toy Chica Bucket Club, seeing my girl scrapped really breaks my heart. The various versions of Scrap Toy Chica always put me on edge just because of the amount of exposed endoskeleton. These are damn creepy. No matter what, whether it be slightly destroyed, very destroyed, or hell, even the withered Scrap Chica, it doesn't make me happy to look at it. I mean, this video was already going to make my history questionable to say the least, but this just makes me sad. There isn't really much else to say. It's Scrap Toy Chica, it's what you'd expect. Picture the Glamrock Chica teaser image with her destroyed, but it's Toy Chica, and then boom, you got Scrap Toy Chica. And at 4, Human Withered Chica. There are no words for how this makes me feel. Look, I know I joke about Chica all the time and wanting to be with her, etc. Like, I even did the entire top 10 tastiest FNAF animatronics list specifically so I could make a joke that Toy Chica was the tastiest animatronic. If you haven't seen that video though, I highly suggest you watch it. I love that video, it's so funny. Nevertheless, this is wrong. Chica as a human is already a scary concept. Add to that the withered version with veins coming out of the arms instead of wires and a blood-stained dress. Emil Ines, however you say your name, I applaud you for your skill, but condemn you to the depths of hell for creating this and causing me to be so confused about what I should be feeling because of it. Like, what else could I say about this thing without probably getting myself in trouble with either one side of the internet or the other? Like, there's no winning here. I don't know. Why? Getting close to the end in number 3, FNAF Plus Chica. FNAF Plus is a fan recreation of the first FNAF game funded by Scott with the Fazbear Fanverse Initiative, and will presumably be this timeline's version of the Fazbear franchise, since games like Five Nights at Candy's revolve around FNAF's history, and the joy of creation revolves around the game's history. FNAF Plus is meant to be a more intense and scary version of the first game, since a lot of fans complained about how the first one isn't scary anymore. But this version of Chica is messed up and all kinds of wrong. First of all, this version looks more like a little girl, which is going to cause a lot more messed up fan art, but also makes more sense given that she's possessed by the spirit of Susie who died while still as a kid. But the head proportions, and the fact that it comes out like it has baby cheeks messes me up. Along with the fact that the puppet has a tuxedo and uses the candle as a top hat. What the hell? I find that even creepier if I'm being honest. I'm voice cracking, that's how bad this is. If you haven't watched these tapes, I suggest you do, because you'll understand what I'm talking about. It also looks like it would sound southern, you know? Penultimately in at number 2, Sinister Chica. One look at Sinister Chica and you'll understand why they're in the number 2 spot, because they're going to make you number 2 your pants. Hailing from the unfinished fan game Sinister Turmoil universe, Sinister Chica was going to be one of the antagonists of that game. All the Sinister Turmoil animatronics are terrifying, and the fact that they are all terrifying makes them a staple on any of these lists at this point, once I discovered them in the last video. While we may have only gotten Sinister Turmoil sewers and a story demo instead of the full game, this is one of the reasons I'm happy that happened. Sorry developers, I'm not hating on you in any way, but I know for a fact that this would have made me unable to sleep for weeks. After playing FNAF VR, I already have to dive into my blanket after turning off my bedroom light, and it's a good jump, okay? This would just make me collapse. The lights would go off and I'd fall to the floor. The slightest movement of a shadow and my sheets would go from red to brown. All because I don't want them to be red with my blood, okay? I have issues. Talking to my doctor. Not really. Finally in at number 1, Havoc Chica. Do I even need to explain? Havoc Chica, aka Maria, is a Havoc animatronic that hails from the Dormitivus universe. She is the Havoc version of Chica, obviously, and is a failed attempt by the Havoc puppet to give her spirit a physical form. While having the same color scheme as Chica, the two look nothing alike, aside from a face and beak. The mask Havoc Chica wears has a good amount of damage done to it. Her right eye socket has grown in size, arcing upwards towards her feathers. The rest of her mask has small withering in a few places, mainly near her right eye socket and her forehead. She has no eyes at all, resulting in her being blind. Her jaw isn't directly connected to her head either, like Chica from FNAF 1. Instead, her jaw looks more like her withered counterpart. Her jaw has withering on the sides as well, and some towards the front. Her entire head is attached to a suitless limb segment, making her head stick out and away from her body, like you're seeing it now. It's grotesque and nauseating to look at. And before you ask, no, it's not because I took my meds without having breakfast, although that isn't helping. The bus ride getting here was rough.